In 1997, a woman named Gemma Bush was shopping in a supermarket in Bristol, England, when she felt a sudden, overwhelming sensation of heat across her body and an inexplicable certainty that something had happened to her twin sister. She left her shopping, drove directly to her sister's house, and found her twin Leanne on the floor with severe burns across her arm and chest from a cooking accident that had happened at the exact moment Gemma felt the sensation. Gemma had been 12 miles away. There was no phone call, no text, nothing. You can dismiss this as coincidence. You can dismiss it as a story remembered imperfectly, the timing adjusted by memory to fit a narrative. These are reasonable responses. But when you collect enough accounts like this, and researchers have collected hundreds of them, the coincidence explanation starts to require something more than a shrug. It starts to require an answer. This is one of the most studied and most argued about questions in all of psychology. Not because scientists believe twins are psychic, but because the data, the actual data from controlled studies, from biological research, from decades of twin studies, points at something genuinely unusual about the connection between identical twins. Something that goes beyond what we normally expect from two people, however close, however alike. Let's start with what we know for certain. Identical twins are the only two human beings who share essentially the same genome. They develop from a single fertilized egg, split in the first days after conception, and share approximately 99.9% of their DNA. They develop in the same womb, at the same time, in the same chemical environment. They share the same prenatal hormones, the same nutritional inputs, the same developmental pressures. Before they are even born, they are more physically intertwined with each other than any two people who will ever exist. This biological reality produces measurable, documented similarities that go far beyond what most people realize. Identical twins separated at birth and raised in completely different families with completely different experiences, in some cases on different continents, show remarkable convergences in personality, in preference, in cognitive style, in mental health, in the specific fears they develop, and in the specific diseases they develop and when. The Minnesota Twin Study, which tracked identical twins separated at birth across several decades, found cases of twins who had independently given their dogs the same name, married people with the same first name, chosen the same profession, and developed the same unusual hobbies without ever having met each other or known of each other's existence. These findings do not require a mystical explanation. The genetic basis for personality, preference, and cognitive style is strong enough that two people with the same genome, processed through the same developmental environment, will tend to produce similar outputs, even when those outputs are assembled from completely different life experiences. The convergence is remarkable, but explicable. But the pain at a distance accounts are different, because pain is not a preference. Pain is not a personality style. Pain is a specific, real-time signal arising from a specific physical event. For one person to feel another person's pain at a distance requires not convergence, but communication. And that is a different claim entirely. So what is actually happening when twins report feeling each other's pain? There are several explanations, and they are not mutually exclusive. The first is the most obvious: selective memory and confirmation bias. Twins who are close are attuned to each other in ways that most people are not. They check in frequently, think about each other often, and notice when something feels wrong. Given the frequency of these thoughts, the occasional coincidence between an anxious thought about a twin and an actual event affecting the twin is statistically inevitable. The coincidences that match get remembered. The far larger number that do not match, the anxious thoughts that preceded nothing, are forgotten. The result is a perceived pattern of connection that is actually a pattern of selective attention and selective memory. This explanation is solid. It accounts for a significant proportion of reported twin telepathy cases. It is probably sufficient to explain the majority of them, but it does not explain all of them, because the most striking documented cases involve not a vague sense that something is wrong, but a highly specific physical sensation: pain, nausea, loss of consciousness, occurring in the right location of the body at the right time with no prior knowledge of the other twin's situation. These cases are fewer. They are harder to dismiss. The second explanation explanation involves what researchers call the empathic accuracy of identical twins, the degree to which twins can read each other's emotional and physical states more precisely than almost any other pairing of people. Research on twin empathy has found that identical twins show higher empathic accuracy than fraternal twins, who show higher accuracy than close, non-twin siblings, who show higher accuracy than unrelated friends. The gradient, the more genetically similar, the more precisely each person can read the other. What drives this? Identical twins share not only their genome, but their nervous system architecture. The specific wiring of a brain, the density of connections between specific regions, the balance of neurotransmitter systems, the sensitivity of specific circuits is substantially shaped by genetics. Two people with the same genetic blueprint tend to produce brains that are wired similarly, and brains wired similarly tend to resonate with each other in specific ways, to find each other's emotional states readable in ways that less similar brains do not. There is a neurological concept called mirror neurons, cells in the brain that fire both when you perform an action and when you observe someone else performing the same action. They are thought to be part of the neural basis for empathy, the mechanism by which you feel, in some attenuated way, what you observe others feeling. In identical twins who share not only their genes, but their developmental environment and their lifelong history of observation and imitation of each other, the mirror neuron systems may be calibrated to each other in an unusually precise way. The result, each twin's brain may be an unusually sensitive reader of the other's physical and emotional states when they are together. The distance cases are where this explanation breaks down. Mirror neurons require observation. They fire in response to what you see. If your twin is 12 miles away, there is nothing to observe. The mirror neuron explanation, however sophisticated, requires proximity. And this is where the science becomes genuinely uncertain. Because there is a strand of research, controversial, contested, not yet replicated reliably enough to be mainstream, that suggests the connection between identical twins may operate through mechanisms that we do not yet fully understand. In 1999, a study published in the British Journal of Psychology by psychologist Susan Blackmore attempted to test twin telepathy under controlled conditions. Pairs of identical twins were separated into different rooms. One twin was subjected to stimuli, flashes of light, unexpected sounds, mild physical sensations. The other twin's physiological responses, skin conductance, heart rate, brain activity, were measured simultaneously. The hypothesis: if there is genuine physiological connection between twins, the non-stimulated twin should show a measurable response when the other twin is stimulated. The results were ambiguous. Some pairs showed a correlation. Most did not. The effect, if it exists, is not reliably reproducible under controlled conditions. This is the pattern that most parapsychology research shows. Suggestive individual cases, a pattern in the data that seems like something, but that dissolves or becomes inconsistent when the methodology tightens. The effect is always just at the edge of what the evidence can support. But here is what makes the twin case different from standard parapsychology research. The biological plausibility of a connection mechanism exists in a way that it does not for random strangers. Identical twins share a genome, a developmental history, a lifelong pattern of entrained physiological rhythms. There is documented evidence that when identical twins are in the same room together, their heart rates and breathing patterns synchronize to a degree not seen in other pairings. There is documented evidence that twins who grew up together tend to have synchronized sleep cycles, synchronized stress responses, and synchronized immune function. The biological synchrony is real, measurable, and extensive. The question is whether this synchrony can operate at a distance, whether two people whose biology has been so deeply entrained to each other can maintain some form of that entrainment when they are physically separated. We do not know. The research is insufficient to say yes confidently. It is also insufficient to say no. There is a researcher named Guy Playfair, a journalist and author who spent years collecting and analyzing twin telepathy accounts, who argued that the most compelling cases were not random. They clustered around moments of extremity, severe pain, mortal fear, the moment of death, not the quiet synchronicities of shared preference or simultaneous thought, the moments where the biological signal from one twin was at maximum intensity. His argument: if there is any mechanism connecting twins at a distance, it would be most likely to operate when the signal is strongest. This is not science. It is a pattern noted in anecdotal accounts, but the pattern is consistent enough that researchers who study twins take it seriously as a phenomenon worth investigating, even when they do not take the telepathy explanation seriously. What does the science actually know? It knows that the connection between identical twins is the most biologically intimate relationship available to human beings. It knows that this connection produces documented, measurable synchrony in physiology, in psychology, and in behavior. It knows that twins who are close show empathic accuracy toward each other that exceeds almost any other pairing of people. And it knows that a subset of identical twins report experiences of connection at a distance that, if accurately remembered and accurately timed, would require a mechanism that current science cannot explain. The honest position is this: most twin telepathy reports are probably coincidence, misremembering, and confirmation bias. A smaller number are probably explained by the extraordinary empathic sensitivity that comes from a lifetime of biological and psychological attunement, and a very small number, the cases that are specific, well documented, and involve highly precise physiological mirroring at a distance, remain unexplained. What Gemma Bush felt in that supermarket in Bristol was real to her. Whether it was connected to what was happening to her sister, or whether it was a dramatic coincidence that memory locked into a story of connection, we cannot know. What we can say is that if any two people on Earth could be connected in a way that science does not yet fully understand, identical twins are the most plausible candidates. They began as one. They became two, and some part of the biology that made them one may not have finished separating.